Okay, welcome everybody. We are now on week number 83 of our IGU Summit event that we do every Thursday morning at 11 o'clock EST. So I begin these sessions each day that we do this with the acknowledgement of those who came before us. Therefore, I do say a land acknowledgement. We begin today by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples. We recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We're grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources. And we're committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on here in the Greater Toronto Area is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Wendat, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe people, and is now home to many diverse people. We'd like to acknowledge the land we are on here is at the meeting place of two treaties, the land of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty. We thank them and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us. We also acknowledge and recognize all of the world's Indigenous peoples as stewards of Mother Earth. So with that, I do like to also say Sawubona. This means I see you, I see myself in you, I see your hopes, your dreams, and your struggles. I see your ancestors as well, because interconnectedness does not end with two people who are greeting each other. It extends to include the ancestor. All beings in Mother Nature are interconnected. There is no sense of being separate. I see myself in all beings, and therefore, if I harm other beings or Mother Nature, it translates into harming myself. Before I mention events coming up, I wanted to mention that on Tuesday, December 20th, 2022, we did our Drawdown Markham regular monthly virtual meeting, which was also our final wrap-up meeting of 2022. I have also done the presentation I did today once before, but I wanted to repeat this event once again, because many of our members missed it last week due to the holidays and business personal schedules. I'm also doing this again because our original guest speaker, Gagalo Roba Uyo from UnityNet Kenya and the Marsabit Botanical Garden decided to postpone his presentation for a couple of weeks instead of doing it right away in the new year. Gagala will come on to make his presentation during week 85 of our IGU Summit on Thursday, January 19th, 2023 instead. I did want to mention again that the presentation that I gave during the Drawdown Markham wrap-up included a year-end review discussing accomplishments, responsibilities, areas to develop, as well as strengths and priorities. I also had a roadmap caucus looking to the future, 2023 and beyond, which we are now part of course. And we discussed our partnerships with UnityNet and the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassador. Our special guest speaker at that time was intended to be Zach Steele from brandswan.com, a digital marketing creative design agency in Vaughan, Ontario. Zach also created the Big Pitch Digital Marketing Group, a Toronto-based ad agency that specializes in branding, copywriting, social media campaign, website design, organic ranking of websites. Unfortunately, Zach ran out of battery on his phone, was unable to give his presentation for us, but we will bring him back on to do a presentation now in the next few weeks, hopefully. Zach also wanted to talk to us about the Big Pitch Environment Forum, local York Region and Greater Toronto Innovation Tech Trades Forum event in 2023 that he would like to do. We do hope that this event can be done in October this year as our own in-person Climate Smart Youth Forum 2023, possibly in partnership with either Seneca College or York University or both, or even more, and others in the Greater Toronto Area of Canada, possibly in partnership with SDSM Canada and perhaps even UNGC Canada as well. He also wanted to talk to us about the environmental necessity or events at religious temples, churches, and houses of worship as ways for people in communities to set examples for other residents to follow in footsteps. During his upcoming presentation, still to be scheduled, Zach will also introduce our Drawdown Markham members to an innovation program that's being delivered by the Canadian government called the Canada Digital Adoption Program. We'll also get more information in the year about this. Zach will also outline for us strategies for digital marketing that could be used by local small businesses, whether in Markham or in fact anywhere around the world. And during that meeting last December, we also discussed parts of our Drawdown Markham and UnityNet GTA plan for 2023 that really revolves around 4 key community engagement events in 2023 in April, June, August, and October. And I will go through those later in my presentation. I do want to mention other events that are coming up. Today, actually Thursday, January 5th, 2023, again, week 83 of our IGU Summit series with the first of our IGU Summit events, of course, for 2023. So even though I'll be doing the same presentation I did last week, this will likely be quite new for some people. But before we get going, I do want to mention the International Day of Epidemic Preparedness, which took place on Tuesday, December 27th, 2022. This day was especially important in consideration of the COVID crisis that we just went through for the past couple of years, and where some, like in China, are still in the midst of this crisis. Could potentially align ourselves with this day as well and say that we work in that the work that UnityNet is doing is helping to advance epidemic preparedness. We just finished Kwanzaa, the annual celebration of African American culture that took place from December 26th to January 1st, culminated in a communal feast called Karamu on the 6th day. Kwanzaa was created by activist Maulanga Karenga, based in on an African harvest festival tradition from various parts of West and Southeast Africa. The first Kwanzaa was celebrated in 1966 and 67 and has been celebrated from December 26th to January 1st since that time. The name Kwanzaa is derived from a Swahili phrase, Matunda y Kwanza, meaning first fruits. Today, January 5th, is also National Bird Day in some places, basically around the world. I noted last week, National Bird Day is scheduled to coincide with the annual Christmas bird count, which lasts 3 weeks and is the largest citizen science survey in the world, keeping track of America's wild birds. I was once the newsletter editor for the Richmond Hill Naturalists and took part in many Christmas bird counts. This year's Christmas bird count ran from December 14th to January 5th, and that's today being the next day. Ontario Nature, a member group, organized at least 48 of these bird counts in the province this season. I also wanted to mention that here in Canada, yesterday, January 4th, was the first National Ribbon Skirt Day, where you can find actually that information in the chat. It's a link to a Twitter that came in yesterday from the AFN, the Assembly First Nations. Coming up between now and this time next week is also tomorrow, January 6th, National Take Down the Christmas Tree Day, also known as Cuddle Up Day or Bean Day. But most importantly, it is also International Day of Zero Tolerance to Female Genital Mutilation, as well as January 7th. The day after is called Old Rock Day. January 8th, Bubble Bath Day. January 9th, Coming of Age Day or National Word Nerd Day. And January 10th, House Plant Appreciation Day, National Bittersweet Chocolate Day. But we also cannot forget that January 10th is also World Pulses Day, which is a recognized UN day. And one day before the next IGU Summit, January 11th, is Learn Your Name in Morse Code Day, but importantly also, it is International Day of Women and Girls in Science. So I will put some links in that for instance, the International Day of Epidemic Preparedness, which was December 27th. You can also see a little bit of history in the links that I'm sharing. As well, you'll find some additional information about Kwanzaa, which I mentioned earlier. As well, the January holiday observances that I mentioned, as well as National Bird Day. And then some additional links to the annual Christmas bird count. It was actually posted by Audubon. The Audubon Christmas bird count has been actually going since 1900. So it's been more than 100 years. It's North America's longest running wildlife census, and many local counts take place. Ontario Nature hosts the bird counts here in this province. And then also Birds Canada does host events across the country as well. And in the chat, you will find as well information about the observance around the International Day for Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, which is again coming up fairly soon as well. And there is also some additional information from various UN organizations who do those kinds of celebrations or observances, like the WHO. And there is a special focus this year on 17 African countries that is going to be posted on this day. As well, I am putting in a little bit of additional information about the World Pulses Day, which is also coming in the next week. There is also, of course, the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, as I mentioned, one day before our next IGU Summit. And there is a link for people who wish to get involved in those activities. So one thing is, before we start today, I would also like to give everyone a little bit of history of where we come from. So as I wrote in many of our UnityNet group discussions, as I was saying, Happy New Year in 2023 to all who have stuck with UnityNet the past couple of years, especially as we exhibited so many growing pains as we continue our journey together and seek ways to find not just ourselves, but our better selves. Or as one lady said during Saturday's HHC Clubhouse discussion, in 2023, I will be seeking to be the best me. I made a final note because I wanted to mention where UnityNet started, which all began with the Mother Earth Watering the Fields of Humanity Just Stop Music showcase. So we are rallying around a clear cause of global cooperation and the universal message that we are Earth. All who contributed in good faith to the cause and message by Professor Elizabeth Greenwell, and we are watering the fields of humanity. In so doing, they have demonstrated that music does not just build community, music is community. The greater unity pandemic is emerging on the fringes of the COVID-19 healthcare crisis, or as it continues. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, and accordingly, the greater unity pandemic is the social media response that overshadows the mass media focus on fear, panic, and death. Humanity has been obliged to shelter in place and acquire new survival skills based on Ubuntu love, remote learning, and virtual collaboration. The greater unity pandemic wishes to continue. So I will also share with you some links to the Mother Earth showcase and our networks that began on this more than 2 years ago. I also noted in the chat groups that we should let 2023 be the year where humanity is able to truly begin the process of breaking out of the shackles of colonialism, where it is as much of a mindset as it is anything else. Although, of course, there's still the by-force element of it, which is now fully on display in places like Ukraine. I also mentioned the original Spark for Humanity initiative that started all of this in 2019. This was pre-pandemic, as a quote, practical legacy that helps everyone to focus on the kinder world that we can create together. And it all began with a song called Mother Earth, which was something that, again, I would like to play later on in the presentation, if possible, at the end of our discussions. Where I also noted that we did begin to establish a global network of trees of peace and reconciliation, but we hope that leads to a network of peace communities, peace villages, and peace cities by starting to plant the local youth peace gardens. Again, you will find various social media groups for the Unity Peace Garden Network, Unity Eco Village Network, and the UnityNet Smart Cities Network as well. I also included in that opening WhatsApp post a few other videos for people to watch, including the ones that I'm hoping to share, and I will share as well the links in the chat. For instance, the one by Omar Essa called One Love, which was our theme song for the original global pandemic, as it was called at that time. So again, people can watch those videos as they wish. One other thing that I remind all of our members in UNAD and in some of the other key networks and chats, this has always been about engagement of youth culture and hip hop. And back in October 2019, on the 27th day, our host for today, Andrew, even outlined for us the specifics of our strategy in 5 key areas. First, we will open new routes to engage and involve young people and amplify their voices. Second, we will strengthen our focus on their access to education and health services. Third, we'll place their economic empowerment to the fore of our development strategy through a focus on training and jobs. Fourth, we'll work harder to ensure young people's rights are upheld and promote their civic and political engagement. And fifth, we will prioritize support for young people in conflict and in humanitarian crises, including their participation in peace processes. So these priority areas were outlined by Andrew during a discussion with the original team, the Greater Unity Pandemic, the team that created the Spark for Humanity initiative, which was supported by all of the artists who are singing the Mother Earth video in the Mother Earth Collective. I encourage everyone to watch the videos that I have placed into the chat because they are great examples of what we call edutainment. And if we have time after this main presentation today, I may even place for our audience today between the discussions. But getting on with today's presentation, I'd like to start with a simple introduction of who I am and who we are. So I am Lloyd Halferty, co-founder of UnityNet International. I now say that UnityNet International, also known as Uni, is a hybrid holistic practical learning system management company based in Canada that also assists with community partnership building globally by leveraging a unique set of community engagement activities developed in partnership with the members of the ad hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassador. I'm also the Chief Ecosystem Director, Program Development Director, and a Sustainable Society Consultant for Energy University, which is headquartered in Manhattan, in the US. I am located in the city of Markham in the Don River watershed. German Mills Creek is a sub-watershed which drains into Lake Ontario. lowest and last of the North American Great Lakes in the Greater Toronto area of Southern Ontario, Canada, here on Turtle Island, North America. So Energem University is a private 501(c) nonprofit company in New York, a member of the UN Global Compact, a UN academic impact member and partner. We are a virtual university created to help empower global populations to reestablish a sustainable balance with our local environments. We do this by designing and implementing projects that support strong and diversified local economies while integrating core sustainable technologies and infrastructure into these communities in the areas of renewable energy, high-density food growth solutions, and systems for sustainably managing local waste streams and protecting local water reserves. We are supported by over 375 companies whose products and technologies we employ. Energem University also supports local education and training in the construction, deployment, and maintenance of all the various integrated solutions for achieving these closed-loop systems that in turn support self-sufficient, sustainable communities. Today, I'd also like to go into more details about what it is that Energem University expects to happen as we begin to assist with projects in local communities anywhere in the world where people might wish to do them. I wanted to remind our audience that Energem University is a charitable organization, a 501(c) nonprofit in the US. As such, we do not and legally cannot profit from our projects aside from covering the costs of operating and hiring the people we need to create projects with our project partners. We are not looking to compensate anyone for land or opportunity to help them create a community project that in the end they will own. We can help to provide the facility construction support and of course the education and training expertise, along with the project development support that will allow your community members and local entrepreneurs to create the solutions that are required, whether it's here in Canada or in Africa or anywhere else in the world. We do not, however, intend to pay for that opportunity. And we can also help our partners find money for your own project if you are willing to put up the land and find some financing on your end as well. As of this moment, we know of no other organizations or efforts other than some international agencies that we are aware of that will come in and gift such an effort to a school or a community or any country outward. And we all know that UN financing goes through the governments. It's top-down, tends to be corrupted in so many ways. But there needs to be buy-in and material participation on the part of the partner or the charitable organizations and philanthropic entities that we partner with to contribute to completing the funding and implementation of any local project. So this is particularly true if the project is designed for a school or other private organization and is not direct funding to a government of your country. Our work also includes partnership with the UNDP. We are getting participation of the countries directly. We are also the work look for matching funding in the US, where Energem University is incorporated, especially from groups who are interested in supporting the project. But these entities don't see material buy-in from the partners and partnering entities in places like Africa or the indigenous communities. They will have no interest in funding these efforts. The mindset they have is if the partner isn't willing to contribute to the local solution, they must not be committed to the project. So everyone we work with puts up the land because they will own the projects finally when they are built and completed. We do not pay our partners for something that they will ultimately own themselves. So we're here to help provide all of the project direction, implementation expertise for these projects. We are committed to seeing them done all over the world, but we need partners who are at least equally committed to the success of the projects in their own local communities. So the benefit of the Energem University programs is that any community that builds them will have a local training center that will regularly graduate the next generation of high-tech farmers. And we also extend our efforts into training farmers through the community and throughout the country as well. But the key is this community involvement, which may include any combination of local organizations, schools, government agencies, or others, which is one of the main reasons why UnityNet is building our empowerment networks locally. Again, you'll find my information in the chat. You can connect directly with me if you have any additional questions or wish to get in contact with me. I'm also providing a link that goes to the AHIABGA University website, defining a methodology for our education and training. In addition, there is a link to the Science for Peace Community Sustainability Working Group, Climate Smart Food Consulting Group, public network. Again, we are a social media driven organization. We also have a Climate Smart Food Consulting Group organization, where these protocols were developed originally by Science for Peace, which is here in Toronto, based at the University of Toronto. You can find more information about Science for Peace in the links that are being shared in the chat. Specifically, the Community Sustainability Working Group, or COSWOG, as it was called, developed the original protocols for the Climate Smart Food Program, going back all the way to 2015. So I am also the co-founder and administrator of the We Energize Global Cooperation Turtle Island International Civil Society Organization. We are seeking to undertake what we call life value peace education, done in the context of life learning gardens. We do continue to promote this important concept of life value peace education. Again, in the chat with some additional information about this organization that was started in 2019. So I was also designated as a Goodwill Ambassador for the 5 Point Youth Foundation in Los Angeles. I do have a portfolio that covers Canada, La Francophonie, the Commonwealth of Nations, and Turtle Island. As a member of the AHIABGA International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and Activists, or AHIABGA, we are seeking to empower our communities to engage with Royal, Indigenous, and tribal leadership, as well as helping local communities establish interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives, or INAB collaboratives, that will come together and pledge to support all of the local humanitarian entrepreneurs who are globalizing the global goals, starting with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, while also seeking ways to leave no one behind. Again, in the chat, you will find a link to connect to the AHIABGA International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors. I would like to mention our primary sponsor, give recognition for our support, and in particular, Andrew Networks. We call our door opening network of the Global Unity Network of Networks, UnityNet, who's hosting these weekly Thursday Zoom calls, which we are committed to take place through the end of December of this year. So Andrew Networks also hosting additional events like the Youth Peace Week events and our Drawdown Markham monthly events as well. With Andrew Networks promotional support services, also rebroadcasting any production-ready presentations or other citizen media to the themes of globalization, re-indigenization, resilience, and the local implementation of the SDG on their AHIABGA domain, redirected to a number of other social media sites like UCI-TPP site and others, where Andrew Networks is a branded domain name owned by RXTC Export Trading Company, comprising various social media channels like TRN TV, Universal Citizens Media Networks, Conversations with Andrew Williams Jr., and many others. So Andrew Networks is not only our primary sponsor supporting the promotional ecosystems for the UnityNet initiative, this Indigenous Global Unity Summit especially, which again continues until the end of the year. But Andrew is also what we call our yes partner. He's been helping to open doors so that the members of our network are able to discover their inner selves and their passions, where Andrew is working with the people who occupy the various nodes of our global unity network, so they can come together with the people of the network, acting like a net to support the dreams of our members, so they can leverage those passions, transform their visions of a better future for themselves and their communities into a reality that makes sense for both themselves and the members of the community, however they might define what that better future is collectively as they seek to work together in partnership and leave no one behind. Again, you'll find information in the chat about Andrew and how to connect with him through the various networks that he is affiliated with as well. So we are creating what's called the Global Unity Network, also known as UnityNet. Our main purpose as a business is to help others succeed through partnerships as per SDG 17 in collectively achieving sustainable and regenerative community, implementing all 17 SDGs, as well as taking local climate action, SDG 13, to achieve drawdown, especially through the production of regenerative climate smart food in all of our local, not just here in Ontario, or the Toronto area, but also across Canada and worldwide, where we can begin solving the climate crisis one meal at a time, and one family and local community at a time. Where the Global Unity Network is being created globally to support local community interventions through our UnityNet and AHIABGA community engagement process that ultimately result in local community enterprises, those SMEs run by the local humanitarian entrepreneurs, where both the enterprise and the teams that are running these enterprises, the local businesses, are investment ready and are able to successfully execute and create local businesses in a way that will generate sustainable revenue and hopefully profits for the business and for the local community as well. Through systems of what we call regenerative finance that's done at the local and regional and national and even in the international levels through the local community partnership cooperative entity, the local network that is also part of and a member of UnityNet. And where the local network, the INAP collaboratives, also serve as the local empowerment teams for the local entrepreneurs, so they can achieve business success in their own local community, or regionally, or even nationally, and potentially even internationally as they grow their business, selling the various regenerative goods and services that they produce that also benefit their communities, benefit humanity, and benefit all our relations with nature by helping to achieve the global goal regeneratively through the activities of their community-based cooperative businesses, their localized enterprise. With our philosophy being that only we ourselves can help ourselves, because our job in life is not to sit back and watch the show. Our job is to conceive the story, write the script, produce it, direct it, and star it. So be the best you can, inspire others, shine their brightest as well, because it's our responsibility to be knowledgeable and confident in what we do, because it is what we create and what we produce and sell that matter. As professional development coach Tom Harris said recently, the best and fastest way to learn something is to teach it. Do not wait until you know all about it or have mastered what you wish to share before you begin to share. The world needs more of what you wish to learn more of. So don't worry so much about what you don't know, worry about what you don't do. You are depriving people of your knowledge and wisdom while you are waiting to become an expert. So I want to mention as well the Youth Peace Gardens Network. The message of UnityNet involves a change in the paradigm of our dialogue. So we must always remember that we are fighting with peace and not for it, which means using higher consciousness in achieving our objectives. We're not fighting a war with each other to save the planet. We're making peace with the planet to save ourselves. This is the new strategy that's also being called the Gaia Guitar strategy, and will allow us to create a shared consciousness with peacemaking that is more contagious than fear and war. The message that it will be centered around the 4 elements and symbols of peace that we wish to incorporate into every local community of UnityNet. These include the Youth Peace Gardens established in each local community, with a tree of peace and reconciliation that is planted in the garden, along with an Indigenous unity flag raised in a location nearby, along with a peace pole erected in a conspicuous location with high foot traffic within or next to the garden. So these are the symbols of the UnityNet Peace Garden Network, which also includes a community Unity Garden Learning Center will also allow us to create sacred spaces in all our local communities, which can be mapped onto the UnityNet sacred site and watershed net, and are symbolic of the community of humanity coming together in peace, reconciliation, and forgiveness, and the restoration of our relationship with Mother Earth and each other, because this is the only way that we'll be able to ensure that all of humanity and all our relations will be able to survive in the climate of the future. Again, you'll find in the chat some links to the UnityNet Peace Gardens network. So UnityNet International, as noted, I am the co-founder of the Global Unity Network, established by UnityNet International, which helps to create the UnityNet Africa and Diaspora Group and all of the other global groups in Asia, the Americas, and Europe. So we are a network of people and organizations supporting the Ad hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassador and UnityNet process of the localization of the global goals, currently the SDGs, and the global transition to a globalized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. We're creating this global empowerment now for professionals in regenerative development as well, to support all of our members, including the female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who are helping to implement the local regenerative climate smart solutions that are required to achieve a productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So the humanitarian entrepreneurship is really defined as a social enterprise that focuses on the delivery of the various solutions for achieving a sustainable development goals locally. So UnityNet has a mandate to educate our youth so that they know how to build this regenerative climate smart infrastructure in all their local communities. So our role at UnityNet is to establish the hybrid infrastructure that's necessary for delivering the learning programs, the education, and the training that provides all the local humanitarian entrepreneurs with the appropriate knowledge, tools, and processes that they need to help implement the global goals, currently these SDGs, locally within their own communities, with the overarching goals of leaving no one behind. So it's important to note the existing social media we're using, the WhatsApp, the Facebook, the LinkedIn groups that we are setting up and continuing to use. They are placeholders as we build the Global Unity Network and prepare to launch and eventually get all of our people, companies, and nodes of the network onto what we call the Interchange for Peace VCN, where we'll then be able to gain access to many more tools and services available there, where we can much more easily collaborate in order to locally implement all of these globally coordinated real-world events, projects, enterprises, and infrastructure. So one of the key goals for 2023 will be to begin to getting our members, starting with the key stakeholders and members of UnityNet support networks, our administrators, onto the Interchange for Peace VCN, which will likely first be hosted on the Easy Expo platform as a key element of our network of networks, virtual metaverse trading spaces for virtual local regional trade shows. In our final UnityNet Interchange for Peace, we do also wish to include virtual student union spaces that will help to empower young people and learners at all ages, along with a community investment and exchange system, or CIES, a platform for the establishment of local neighborhood empowerment networks, especially of local multi-home communities in cities around the world, a UnityNet Dream Boards virtual space linked to digital billboards in the community, as well as a regenerative financing platform for infrastructure project and humanitarian cooperative enterprise financing for the members of UnityNet who join the Interchange for Peace VCN. So UnityNet International does plan to eventually bring all of these components together on our Interchange for Peace VCN, but this includes Energy University, the Sustainable Development Association, E7 Architecture Studio, and Carbon Earth coming together. So this is a fairly complex project as we moving forward. But for now, our social media, which you'll find in the chat. So I want to mention as well a little bit more about the Global Unity Network. which was created to showcase global cooperation for the implementation of the global regenerative solutions to achieving the global goals, starting, of course, with those 17 SDGs. Our purpose is to help uplift the traditionally marginalized communities that are mostly being left behind because the existing economic paradigm is focused on making money for those who are already wealthy, extracting resources through the exploitation and often overexploitation of people in the natural world. And therefore, the majority of people on Earth are mostly being ignored by our existing highly competitive economy. Our focus is on the billions of people who exist, or rather subsist, on the economic sidelines, where we intend to start our work by helping local communities deliver the various local regenerative and climate smart enterprise solutions that people and communities in some of the least developed countries, communities, and local economies require in order to thrive. As an entry point, we are focused in particular on those communities that are the most food insecure. Again, you will find a link in the chat to the Global Unity Network social media. So UnityNet is promoting the delivery of a suite of practical solutions to achieving the global goals, starting with those SDGs during this period until 2030. We are focused on using the tools of humanitarian entrepreneurship, focusing on those female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs and their enterprises, the FFHE, and using hybrid, virtual, and hands-on education and training and learning programs, platforms, and curricula with a primary focus on delivery of the various humanitarian entrepreneurship skills training in these practical settings. In other words, practicing them, along with leveraging various open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions to remotely assist local INAP collaborative teams and establish the local collaborative open source Unity Garden classrooms in all of the local communities across Africa and around the world. So the Unity Garden classrooms are set up in collaboration with existing schools and local communities. They can be used for the local and remote and virtual delivery of the practical learning programs for all of those FFHE members, so they can learn how to grow, process, cook, market, sell, and trade the various types of regenerative climate smart food and related nutritional, medicinal, and other types of locally produced regenerative products, both within their own local communities, as well as regionally, nationally, continentally, and even internationally, in order to produce income and therefore greater prosperity for themselves and for the people in their own local communities, for all people on all continents, with the intention and goal, again, of leaving no one behind. Again, you'll find the links to the Smart Cities Network and as well the related Eco Village Network of UnityNet. As well, we do have a hemp network, which was set up fairly early on in alignment with a network in Sierra Leone. We also have our Climate Smart Kitchens group, and related to that are the cook stoves, which are production systems at the local level in the communities. We also have a fairly new group, the Food Loss and Waste group, as well. So the UnityNet AHIABGA process of globalization of global goals is actually intended to help everyone and each of their own local community establish these local teams of humanitarian entrepreneurs, as well as the local community empowerment networks, these INAP collaboratives that will provide support and ensure the success of the local cooperative humanitarian enterprises who are building the Unity Garden. So the Unity Gardens are intended to be established in each local community across the global network, most likely starting in Africa, but also here in North America, Turtle Island, and beyond. And we're talking to people in Asia and Oceania as well. So this process of establishing the local INAP collaboratives is done by taking part in what we call the Abraham Project, where we plant the trees of peace and reconciliation through ceremonies. This all started on Sunday, June 5th, World Environment Day, but continues throughout the planting season locally wherever we are. Some communities also established twin trees of peace and reconciliation and twinned unity gardens, as well as those peace gardens and INAP collaboratives as well. So this twinning or twinning or quadrinning or more is done through what we call the CTP program. which is a process of twinning the local community Unity Garden humanitarian enterprises and twinning the local community INAB collaboratives. So we are building here a global network of local INAB collaboratives where all the members in each local community empowerment network is interconnected, watching over and talking to each other at the global level through that interchange with Peace VCN. And where each local INAB collaborative will have a diverse set of members from 7 different sectors, actually 8, in every community: a public, private, civil society, academic, interfaith, finance, orange economy, the creative sector, as well as Indigenous community. So all of these members will also be watching, promoting, and helping each other, supporting local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs, those FFHE, in each of their own local community, and will be empowered by all of the members of the Global Unity Network, where all activities are also intended to be transparent. All members of the global network, including the members of the local INAB collaborative, will also be accountable to and for the success of the local collaborative Unity Garden humanitarian enterprise in each of their own local community. Again, there are some related links in the chat, for instance, to UnityNet Biochar, Climate Smart Farming Network, as well as the Plant-Based Climate Smart Food Network, group discussions, and the Smart Greenhouses Network, in addition to the tourism network, which we are hoping to leverage as we move forward. So the INAB collaboratives I would like to talk about were established at the local level. We are using them to leverage the process of community engagement. So the community engagement done initially through the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting and flag raising ceremonies, followed by ongoing community engagement and interaction through regularly scheduled events throughout the year, including coordinated bubble fun festivals and sports and dancing and arts, done in collaboration with the local INAB collaborative members. There's the CPP program for twinning the community activities, such as the community organized tree plantings or the local regenerative and public community infrastructure development projects and events. Tea Diplomacy Initiative, in-person virtual community conversations on topics like peace, regeneration, reconciliation, and forgiveness. The Dream Boards Initiative, done in collaboration with the C4 group members and others, along with identification of engagement with the local talent, artists, and creative people in the orange economy for the purpose of promoting and showcasing their talent, but especially as they promote through their art the globalization of the global goal and the achievement of a productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind, especially during any one of our periodic sunlight spectacle and other edutainment events that may be done throughout the year, along with any other programs or activities that may be developed in the context of the climate smart gardens and forests delivered by organizations like FDSC in Oshawa, the climate smart kitchens delivered by Kindred Kitchens in Toronto, the Wheel of Life Farms delivered by an organization called EPWT in Vietnam, and the CSAF centers, also known as Spark Learning Centers or Climate Smart Learning Centers, delivered by an organization called PodNet. So we also have in the chat, and we'll find some additional links to our Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree plantings discussion group and the Unity Art Network, along with additional links to the International Global Fun Festivals organization for social media, which is coordinated through the Greater Unity Network management team and its supporters, with a note around the Global Fun Festival and why they are the link we have with PodNet. So there is also a link to our CPP program, Winning the Communities, and the Tea Diplomacy Initiative that I mentioned as well, which we do on certain days of the year, aligned with the various celebrations that are done internationally through the United Nations. So I do want to mention the Grandmother's Bubble Fun Multicultural Festival. Potentially we would like to do this year. We want to also have this as a representation at the Grandmother Fun Multicultural Festival we'd like to host here in the city of Markham or York Region this year. We'd like this to take place in August, sometime between the International Day of Indigenous Peoples, which is August 9th, and World Humanitarian Day, which is August 19th. As close to International Youth Day, August 12th, as possible. We need to do lots of planning ahead, including fundraising, which is why we're starting this discussion. We did start this a couple months ago. I will also be having this discussion with members of the Drawdown Markham and our partners through the Community Climate Action Fund and the Collaborative Exchange Program. We also want to be talking to members of Hollywood North, begin creating youth empowerment music that helps to carry our UnityNet message about things like localization of global goals and ways to create the globalized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind in all of our local communities, of course, what we call Ubuntu. We'd also like to create a campaign in support of the implementation of UNDRIP locally in every community. So the campaign would be taken to all of our local communities and society as a whole by helping to bring cultural education back into the schools. So this event will be hosted by the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development, which is our professional network affiliated with Unity as well. So as we move forward, I will be popping some of these links again into the chat for people to connect with all of our related social media networks as we move forward with our programs through, for instance, the UnityNet Sister Schools program and the local community INAP collaboratives, which are being created here in the Greater Toronto area as examples for all of the others in our network. UnityNet International is also focused on what we call values-driven digital community transformation. Do two main things. First, we focus on creating community partnerships for the ultimate purpose of facilitating the creation of the community-based cooperative humanitarian enterprise teams, consisting of young people and families in local communities worldwide who are seeking to implement local regenerative solutions for achieving the global goals, or those SDGs. The second thing is we are helping to facilitate the local establishment of regenerative community garden learning hub spaces in all of our local communities. The Unity Garden or Unity Hub spaces are places for educating and training young people and families in all of our local communities to become localized, regenerative, climate-smart, humanitarian food producer entrepreneurs who will be delivering local solutions for food, climate, and peace and social justice using the latest in controlled environment regenerative production solutions that can be integrated into any type of community, whether urban, suburban, or rural, along with leveraging a number of different digitally integrated social and business tools that facilitate both collaboration with local communities as well as globally, along with facilitating local income generation for the local community members of our network, so they can become more resilient and begin to adapt to the changing global climate that is also affecting their local watersheds and their ability to produce abundance from their own local productive resources, including healthy soils, clean water, and renewable energy. I would like to get into the nitty-gritty of what we are planning to do in the local communities as we establish the global Unity network, this UnityNet. I will use the example of the city of Markham, give an overview of the structure of our network of networks. And I'm seeing a note from Audrey, unfortunately, things that she had to depart, but I will be meeting with her at the end of next week in person to go over this program plan. So our UnityNet partnership model, based on developing partnerships across the 7 different sectors of local communities, 8 partners in total, including local Indigenous communities. But the international exchanges will be led mostly by the schools, the universities, colleges, school boards are working as a partnership between the educators via our Global Sister Schools program, but not exclusively with them. Those types of exchanges that we'd like to do between, for instance, healthcare practitioners, or emergency managers, paramedics, and fire and security, police, all of which are part of the public sector, governance, along with various others as necessary as per local consideration and needs, including partners in the other sectors like business, interfaith, local civil society, finance, orange economy, both within the settler and indigenous community, as per local development pathways and institutions available. The model we have is called an interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaborative. It's based on the HEPTA matrix partnership model developed by Drawdown Markham, with each local INAP collaborative coming together as a co-op and a member of the GP4RD, the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development, to empower the local humanitarian entrepreneurs who are delivering the local solutions for achieving a globalized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. Here I give an example of a HEPTA matrix partnership that could be created in the city of Markham, here in the York region, in the Greater Toronto, based on existing local institutions and entities. Given the example of the following partners, including the city of Markham as the government partner, which would include all emergency management partners like hospitals, emergency services, fire, ambulance, and any other city maintenance services. This also, some of which delivered by the region of York. The Markham Board of Trade as the business partner, which will hopefully include mostly local SMEs and other local businesses, possibly including some multinational corporations and local members of the UN Global Compact. The York Region District and Catholic School Boards coming in along with York University, Seminary College, and both campuses here in the city of Markham could be the academic partners that are key in the INAP collaborative. The academic partnership doesn't include any other public or private or online virtual schools who have offices or employees in the city of Markham. It could also include non-governmental organizations and others like the TRCA and their partners in education about nature and our local watersheds, like local naturalist organizations and others, as I mentioned at the beginning. The Markham Interchurch Committee for Affordable Housing, or MICA, is an example of an interfaith partner in Markham. The Rotary Club of Markham Sunrise, one of a couple, the other being the Rotary Club of Markham Unionville, along with the Lions Club, the YMCA, Scouts Canada, the Air Cadet Service of Canada, all examples of civil society partners, where we do expect that our primary partner will be Rotary International via Rotary Ontario, called District 770, which includes 55 Rotary clubs in Southern Ontario and about 2,000 members. We hope that PACE and or Meridian credit unions, along with the big five banks with major offices in Markham, will become some of the finance partners of the INAP collaborative. We'll also join our UnityNet finance network as we begin to deploy the regenerative finance systems throughout the network in communities that have established their own local INAP collaborative cooperatives, which would be the primary way of finance that would flow down to the local community organizations that are establishing these cooperative enterprises that are, again, implementing the regenerative infrastructure and executing the UnityNet community engagement events and intervention. Where the Markham Arts Council is an example of the orange economy partner of the HEPTA matrix partnership model. But this does not end because we could have at least as many partners from local Indigenous communities, which includes those 5 or 6 nations that we stated in our land acknowledgement. This may include representation from the societies of credit, the Wendat, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, where this partnership with Indigenous peoples is represented on the page by the heart at the center of the partnership matrix, the critical 8th partner of the INAP collaboratives, the stewards of Mother Nature and Earth that are critical to our future as humans and our survival for at least the next 7 generations into the future. So again, in the chat, I'm placing some links to these organizations that I mentioned and are seen here on the page, in case anybody might wish to connect with them as well. So INAB collaboratives are co-ops. Bring all of the partners together during the tree planting and flag raising and other local community ceremonies and activities, including formally commemorating and celebrating the establishment of the Youth Peace Gardens on any one of the dates that have been planned in our UnityNet Living Rate calendar. We'll also ask all of these organizations and institutions that have been invited to these events to participate to form and join a local INAB cooperative business organization. The mandate of the INAB collaborative is simple: do your best to empower any and all local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs, ensure they succeed in their local cooperative enterprise, starting with the establishment of the local community Unity Garden Learning Center or Community Hub, which will deliver the various goods and services, including local regenerative and climate smart foods that will ensure that we can implement solutions and achieve the global goals locally, starting with those SDGs in ways that leave no one behind. What is shown in the screen here is just one example of an INAB cooperative empowerment network for what is known as the City of Markham here in the region in the Greater Toronto area, in the Great Lakes watershed of Lake Ontario, Canada, on Turtle Island. So we actually have 25 municipalities in the Greater Toronto area. Each one of them can have an INAB collaborative. And right now we have a placeholder for Markham and Mississauga, where we could also like to aim to have at least 5 INAB collaboratives in the Greater Toronto area by the end of 2023, as shown on this page, with the others most likely to be established in the cities of Vaughan and Richmond Hill and the city of Toronto, which may actually have many local INAB collaboratives, possibly coinciding with the 4 major watersheds in the city, including the Humber River watershed in the west, along with Mimico and Etobicoke rivers, the Don River watershed in the heart of Toronto, the Highland and Rouge River watersheds in the east, along with parts of the Petticoat River watershed. There are 20 more municipalities in this 20 more possible INAB collaboratives that can be created in the Greater Toronto area. So my hope and wish is that every one of the 9 municipalities of the region of York, starting of course with Markham, Vaughan, and Richmond Hill as mentioned, but also Newmarket, Aurora, East Gwillimbury, Georgina, King, and Richard Stouffville will also develop their own INAB collaborative. Again, there is a link in the chat to the municipalities here in the Greater Toronto area, of which again there's 25. So I'll now move my presentation forward, talk about our UnityNet International Plan for 2023. So there are 4 community engagement events in 2023 in April, June, August, and October. So first one being UNDRIP Day on Earth Day, April 22nd, an event proposed by Mitch Gold that will include a drumming ceremony at city halls across the Greater Toronto area, as many municipalities as we can at that time. Hopefully that can be done at minimum in Markham City Hall, Vaughan City Hall, Mississauga, and Toronto City Halls, and perhaps a few others. This event, we hope to begin working with local students and teachers at various local schools and have those young people from the schools announce, plan, and establish their own youth peace gardens in all their local schools across the Greater Toronto area, starting with public and private properties as well of their local communities. This would lead us to our second event on Environment Day, June 5th, where we do again our Abraham Project Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting and flag raising ceremonies, like we did earlier this year in Mississauga, in the west of downtown Toronto, in a park just north of Lake Ontario, and at a dance studio whose owner is a member of City UNESCO. So this year we hope to have sponsorship and plant in multiple locations across the Greater Toronto, in parks and schools and private properties of various UNGC member organizations, in order to formally establish the Youth Peace Gardens in as many as 25 local regional municipalities in the Greater Toronto area as possible. We also hope to do ceremonies with not only the students and the teachers in the schools, but also with local Rotary clubs, their members, and local chambers of commerce, and local interfaith organizations, and local dance groups, and local NGOs, various other types of community organizations like the Scouts, the YMCA, and Lions Club, and the 4-H Club, and Boys and Girls Club of Canada. Hopefully more. This will be done when we also get pledges from our members in accordance with that they will commit to establish these local INAP collaboratives as a registered multi-stakeholder cooperative organization in their own local community. In order to empower these young people to begin learning about and implementing these localized regenerative climate smart infrastructure and humanitarian entrepreneurship solutions here in the greater Toronto area and in local communities across Canada. But at this time, we'll also encourage the youth, students, and their teachers to work together, begin thinking about creating their own local collaborative humanitarian enterprises and what their own local community unity garden learning centers might actually look like, where these community unity gardens, peace centers, and unity village might be built within the context of their own local watersheds, what sort of humanitarian programs and businesses and organizations can be hosted within the unity garden spaces. So once we establish the youth peace gardens with these young people, we can then start planning for August and the first regional bubble fun festivals, which can take place again between International Day of Indigenous Peoples, August 9th, World Humanitarian Day, August 19th, and again as close to International Youth Day or August 12th as possible. So during this bubble fun festival, we'll come back to the youth peace gardens that the young people establish at their local schools in their own neighborhoods, have fun, display art, do dancing, play bubble fun sports, have musical performances, serve local foods that reflect their local diverse community, and learn about local solutions to achieving a net zero community and eventually achieving drawdown locally. So this is a time when we can also bring together all of the members who came out for the tree planting, ensure that they are meeting regularly to talk about local solutions, how to empower these local young people, ensure they and their local humanitarian enterprises are successful, especially as they begin planning to build their very first community garden learning centers here in the city of Markham and or York region in the greater Toronto area of Ontario, Canada, here in the Great Lakes region. And this leads us into our final event of the year, which will be the one that takes place in October, where we host a hybrid in-person and virtual climate smart youth forum done at one of our local institutions like Seneca College or York University, or even at the University of Toronto. Or perhaps we can have different events at different schools on different days during Youth Peace Week, which take place between Global Cooperation Day, which is October 4th, and World Food Day, October 16th. For the members of UnityNet TPA and all the local INAP collaborative members, we'll also do in-person and virtual regenerative climate smart solution presentations and professional lectures and edutainment during those 2 weeks between those dates. So the UnityNet Global Climate Smart Youth Forum, as we call it, could include a variety of hybrid in-person and virtual events that also promote and generate entrepreneurial ideas related to the globalized delivery of humanitarian solutions for achieving these global goals by leveraging our Science for Peace Regenerative Climate Smart Food program. During our meeting of Drawdown Markham, just had this past Tuesday, we already talked about how we can approach various local community developers and organizations so we can begin planning for the establishment of the local community youth peace gardens, engagement with these UNGC members in our local communities of the Greater Toronto area here in Ontario and Canada, and engagement also with schools and local communities, along with all of the members of the local community who represent the various sectors of the HEPTA Matrix Partnership template of Drawdown Markham, locally again here in the Greater Toronto area. So again, in the chat are some of these dates, so as a reminder. But we also need to discuss two key projects that I want to focus on in 2023. The first is the establishment of an eco-village center of excellence in Ontario, possibly in the Ottawa Valley or Eastern Ontario. This may become a network of eco-village demonstration projects where we can work with organizations here in Ontario and across Canada who can each demonstrate some of the various different components, eventually showcasing the 5 different open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions that we've been promoting, so they can be deployed in our local communities at the Eco Village Center of Excellence, which will likely be operated by the Maui Aloha project, who will be working in partnership and synergy with all of the organizations of UnityNet for the benefit of all local community members. The second project is related to the creation of a Markham, York Region, and GTA INAP collaborative, or the INAP collaboratives around those key jurisdictions. So we can support the 407 Transitway corridor projects, the 16 possible future projects that York Region may establish across the region and the Greater Toronto area from east to west along Highway 7, the 407 Transit Corridor, where York Regional member Jim Jones, who was just re-elected to his 5th term in office, wants to establish commercial vertical farming demonstration projects in each one of those transit hubs across the GTA, where the local INAP collaboratives are also intended to support all the schools in the region and beyond to join the Global Sister Schools project program. Where I want to also stress that each of these local gardens and projects and events can be twinned with a garden project and event that can also be done anywhere else in the world through our CTP program of Drawdown Markham's Community Climate Action Hub. So again, you'll find additional information about the CTP program twinning, as well as this concept of reverse CTP from Africa to the world. It's over on that side, they are establishing some of these food forests, and where we can work with them as well to establish equally here in Canada. So this is a reminder that the UnityNet initiative is not led by governments, it's not led by the schools, it is led by the members of the stakeholder partnerships or those local INAP collaboratives that are intended and created with all local stakeholders in each local community, where each of the stakeholders will have a voice at the table about how the local community projects move forward in each of the local communities, where the local projects are also led by the local women and girls, along with the men who support them, feminists. So the most important thing that we do in UnityNet is to help establish the local INAP collaborative. So UnityNet International will help bring all of the members of local INAP collaboratives globally that are created in the local communities into a single universal safe space on the web that is what we call the Interchange for Peace VCN. So this is the reason for our tree planting ceremonies, these Tree of Peace and Reconciliation, and the reason we create youth peace gardens with the trees of peace and reconciliation, the diverse flags, and peaceful. So this is all part of the Abraham project, which is ongoing and continuously progressing forward. So the INAP collaboratives are the centerpiece of the global unity, and it is our network of networks. It consists of these local INAP collaboratives working together to uplift and empower the local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who are globalizing the global goals through the establishment of these INAP collaboratives and unity gardens. So as well, in each community, there are 8 different sectors representing these families at the local level, where the realms of each sector include the public, private, civil society, academic, interfaith, finance, orange economy, or creative sector, and Indigenous community, wherever we are, inclusive of the African diaspora. So the INAP collaboratives are led by the women in the local community, working together with their feminist counterparts as men. So we work together closely with the NGOs and CSOs who are already on the ground, and with the community members. So those people who know what is actually happening in the community and among the families that are living there. So all of these INAP collaborative members are tasked with watching and helping each other as per Ubuntu, supporting the local female and humanitarian entrepreneurs in each local community. They will be empowered by all of the members of our global network, and where all their activities are also intended to be transparent, and all of the members of the global network, including the members of the INEM collaboratives, will also be accountable to and for their success of these humanitarian enterprises, starting, of course, with the Unity Garden Humanitarian Enterprise or the community hubs, where our vision is a global, peaceful, localized economy that will also be led by the women and men who understand the power of partnerships as per SDG 17, instead of only competition and fighting war with each other and over resources, which the earth has in abundance, but are still limited and not equally distributed on all continents and in each local community. And this is why fairness and access and equity matter as we seek to use more behind. So one final note as well, before I conclude today's presentation, we are quite interested in remote communities, especially Indigenous roadless communities here in Canada, in terms of applying our UnityNet Unity Hub model, initially as pilot projects in Canada, possibly partnered with some similar projects in Africa or on other continents through the C2P program. One potentially key organization that we would like to partner with is the Voyager Aviation Corporation, a Canadian corporation that's also a UN Global Compact, because the pathways that we'd like to also discuss within UnityNet Canada, here in Ontario, GPA, with our partners around the world, include topics such as developing a regenerative ecotourism that could be used by local communities anywhere worldwide, and integrating the delivery of healthcare and holistic wellness services to remote and Indigenous communities, both in Canada and globally, and developing possible pathways to distributed carbon negative sustainable biofuels development to eventually replace fossil fuels that can help to provide income and empower local Indigenous and re-Indigenous communities, while also helping to advance biodiversity in local watersheds worldwide. But we have to also remember that we absolutely need to show implementation and grassroots impact in our own local communities. It needs to happen locally wherever we are. So people in our local communities, citizens, walk through it, touch it, feel it, smell it, taste it, and use all of their senses to truly experience the solutions we are promoting and partnering with humanitarian enterprises to help deliver these local communities, these solutions globally. As one member of our network, Armstrong Ongera, UnityNet Kenya, said recently, that's what counts and triggers success. So thank you all for your patience during this long presentation. This concludes my presentation today. I would like to open the floor to questions. Please put your information into the chat.
Lloyd, I'm going to stop recording and start recording again.